Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ASL Season 14 Revenge Battles. We're going to have 7 games between Queen and Sharp. If you did not already check out ASL Season 14 Group C, in the winner's match, Queen prevailed over Sharp, and Sharp ended up getting eliminated from the bracket by ASL champion Royal. Hopefully that's not a spoiler for anyone. If so, it's a bit late at this stage, being that these are, I think, well, we'll see when these get released, might be interlude games for ASL 15. Which has been absolutely fantastic. Regardless, we are going to have 7 intense matches starting off on Vermeer. Let's go ahead and dive into that match right here. Up right hand corner, we have Sharp starting as the teal Terran. Bottom right hand corner, we have Queen starting as the blue Zerg. Vermeer being one of those 4-player maps. More often than not, I feel that you got that big macro style that's available to all players. Queen is one of those macro-oriented players. But between these two, I'm expecting to see some of the cutting edge meta potentially all the way around. There's been a lot of disruption in ZVT and TVZ. You have Valkyrie builds on the Terran side. There's been the surgence of Lurker Plague late game, or I should say Hydra Plague more than anything. Hydra, basically Defilers, Hydralisks, Lurkers, Dark Swarm, Plague, using essentially Hydralisk Den units and Defilers to play the late game rather than the standard Ultralisk Zergling. Looks like we're seeing, speaking of creativity, that was really what I wanted to get into, is both these players have various levels of creativity, so I'm expecting to see the entire gamut. Queen, despite being a really macro-oriented player, has a lot of flexibility out of that macro style. Seeing a forward barracks, however, potentially to punish a quick 12 hatchery. And I like what Sharp's doing, trying to throw Queen off his game. I do think it is intelligent not to allow Queen to just do the standard go through the motion style, to where he can dictate the flow and start stunting on you, basically. When I think of, Queen isn't as defensive a Zerg player as, say, Soma, but I will say once he ramps things up, he is an absolute brutal killer, and still I would qualify one of the top 3 Zergs. 12 hatch opener. Looks like we're going to see an initial Marine produce, 2 SCV making their way out to get that scout, one to the top left corner, another to the bottom right. Should find the drone making its way up. And that will at least reveal initial hatchery positioning, and Sharp's going to like what he sees. The drone trying to flip around, maybe create some disruption. Fortunately, trailing a little bit too late. It's possible that was on an attack move as well. And I like what Sharp's doing. He's moving that Marine out of the way to provide even a little bit more time before Queen is able to scout this forward barracks, and might not have the best read on the Marine count. Granted, the response is going to be the same. The drone trying to cycle around, getting a little bit of damage on that Marine before I was about to say before escaping with his life, but down to just 4 health. That SCV on the prowl is able to dodge. 2 more drones out engaging that scouting SCV. Almost got the hit off to get the kill right there on the turn. Going to drop some repair because that's going to be necessary. We have, it looks like, 7 drones pulling out. They want to try to separate the SCV from those Marines so they can go ahead and score some kills and cut off reinforcements at large. Looks like they're going to, so the three Marines initially passing, 2 drones working on that forward bunker. The spawning pool is finished, but it looks like we do have 4 Zergling shortly on the way. This bunker not in range, however, of the hatchery. So it looks like that creep colony is going to be in position to finish, but a second bunker now being built by Sharp to get in range, and it looks like the Marine's going to use that back bunker with a single Marine in it as a staging location. The Marine's able to get back inside before taking sufficient damage, but that's also providing a screen for the drones to get back towards the natural expansion. That Sunken colony is coming close to finish, but after all of the damage it's taken, it is going to be very, very soft once it spawns. Only, yeah, hit away, and that timing from Sharp. The Zerglings, in the meantime, rather than engaging the bunkers, just scooting by. Queen trying to preserve the already light drone count and bring them back to the main to saturate at that location. The Zerglings breaking through. Now, keep in mind, this could be a threat at that barracks because Marines are going to spawn well away from Brethren. It looks like Sharp trying to get his command center up behind this. Another creep colony being dropped on the front. There's going to be no additional bunkers, and as you can see, that bunker doesn't range that hatchery, but this Sunken colony is at an odd position for future defense. Try to keep that in mind. The Marines actually scooting out. It looks like might have missed a couple getting killed. Zerglings disrupting at the natural expansion. able to get a good amount of Marine kills, also able to stop that command center from building. The Zergling trying to get in the main, scouts that second barracks in construction, but it looks like that is going to be it. Forward bunker has been taken out by that Sunken colony, but the secondary bunker still remains. Some nice blockading by that SCV to make sure those Zerglings took maximum damage on their way out. They're still trying to position between the two, and now it looks like things are sort of transitioning into a standard game. Queen is being forced, I presume, to tech to lair. There's really a very, very light drone count, has had all sorts of disruption in the needed Marines. Granted, it was 2 bunkers and no hatchery kill, but Sharp still creating a good amount of disruption. Queen even going to the red here, just momentarily, to try to surge that worker count. Could be problems for Sharp defending this forward bunker, assuming these Zerglings take a forward position. It looks like at the moment they're just going to stage at that western spoke to see when the Marines start moving out. We do have, it looks like hidden back here, an academy just finishing, and this could very easily turn into that standard 2 racks pressure play with 2 medics under construction. And with that, keep in mind, with this Sunken colony somewhat out of position and already damaged, could be a much stronger rush than usual. Looks like we do have those initial 2 medics being built. The Zerglings now getting a swarm, very rapidly taking out that SCV, so it wasn't able to repair that bunker. And the rest of the Marines, their bloody remains, are left on the ground. Firebats being produced, so Sharp is serious about this engagement. The Zerglings will be able to press forward and at least identify the incoming attack. And Queen might even need 3 Sunken colonies here in the front, and that's going to further cut into this early game drone count. So we got 2 down at the very least, and the timing of this is going to be rough, as Sharp is already bearing down on that natural expansion, and the mutation creep hasn't started. An evolution chamber being dropped by Queen that is causing some disruption and also some funneling. You can see where a couple of the Marines are not able to engage, and the Zerglings coming around to the south to make sure they don't engage that forward Sunken colony as well. And a cancellation after the fact as the reinforcements re-emerge to harass that medic Marine army back. And as speed is kicked in, Queen going for a run back to the main, maybe to get some SCV kills. 3rd barracks being constructed, so it looks like it's going to be some hybrid play. The Zerglings initially ignoring that Marine. A bunker has been built, but looks like it is not complete before the Zerglings trying to make it there. A Marine blockading the way briefly, and Zerglings able to make it all the way to the main. At least an SCV kill right there, forcing also a turret cancellation. This could be beneficial. Looks like some Zerglings also ran to the natural expansion right there, splitting off. They want to try to disrupt, in particular, turret placement as best they can, because the spire is up. We have, it looks like, a fleet of Mutalisks on the way. More attacks in that natural expansion to try to keep the turrets down. And this is going to be important for Queen, because if you look at the overall worker count, Sharp is way ahead. And so Queen's going to need to rely on some superb Mutalisk micro to reduce that SCV count or create some other disruption in order to remain economically viable in comparison in this game. Mutalisks pushing forward and fanning out. We do have a +1 weapons and a in-base 3rd hatchery, so it's gonna be a while before Queen even goes for a 3rd. Turret finishes, but 1 SCV falls. Another SCV picked off, but another immediate SCV building, completing that turret. But Queen actually doing a pretty good job of picking off SCVs thus far. The Marine's going to surge out towards the corner. We do have a factory underway as well. Somewhat later than usual, but I don't think that's going to be as big an issue as it would be in a typical match after some of the damage that was done early. Marines sweeping across to cut off potential reinforcements for Queen, or maybe catch the Mutalisks as they're pushing out, but this is a lot of damage now that's been done. 1 Mutalisk looks like getting caught on the reinforcement line. And this natural expansion has been very thinned. Queen has several weakened Mutalisks, but going to exit, and it looks like there's only 5 SCV remaining, and a lot of them were not mining the entirety of that time. A drone's already in position to go ahead and grab bottom left. Single Marine is going to get intercepted. I think it wanted to scout that position, potentially. It's Going to have to rely on Comsat instead. A factory floating out to go above the high ridge to provide additional scouting against those Mutalisks. It looks like that barracks that was on the low ground has been floated back up to the high ground in a defensive posture. An armory being dropped alongside a starport, so it is likely we're going to see a Valkyrie in between. Kind of a disrupted build for both players currently. More Mutalisks being constructed. We do have a Hydralisk Den. +1 weapons not that far away from completing. And Sharp being a little bit menacing out in kind of awkward positions on the forward field. Has a sufficient attack force to defend the main. The Mutalisks trying to hunt down. Nice positioning there. The very spoke. I think Sharp, you could see he was hoping that he was going to get a crosswise engagement. Instead, running headlong to the Mutalisk, loses 2 Marines, but does manage to pick off a Mutalisk otherwise. +1 weapons is now complete. +1 weapons is not that far from finishing for these Mutalisks, however, at which point look for Queen to re-engage. Sharp taking position to apply pressure on that eastern spoke. Just going to hold that high ground so he doesn't end up losing vision. And now he's got, it looks like, some troops marching towards bottom left as well. Queen's Mutalisks trying to find that attack force. And Sharp looks like he's going to dedicate with this. Few troops killed, but by pressuring towards the front, that is blocking the Mutalisks from defending bottom left. We have some some Hydralisks making their way to try to defend. Lurker tech's just about finished, so they might be able to morph on that ramp to prevent the rest of these Marines from taking, well, first of all, sweeping out drone lines, but also potentially taking out a hatchery. There are not a lot of drones here to kill as of yet, but this is going to be critical. A Hydralisk just now getting in position. It's going to take a lot of damage before it morphs. That leaves a very weakened egg. The Mules trying to peel away, and while they're peeling away, Sharp engaging at the natural expansion. A Valkyrie overhead as well. Mules trying to do what they can to pick off the Droop count, able to wipe out the Valkyrie while it's facing the wrong direction. The attack in the bottom left looks like it's able to breach into the main. Comsat dropping, but it doesn't matter as all of the units lined up as they were walking away, and that could have been additional fantastic harass. Instead, looks like Sharp donating some armies to the main and natural expansion. With that, Queen able to secure a 3rd gas. Another Valkyrie overhead. Science vessel finally on the way. 4th and 5th barracks being added. Sharp might want to think about going for some sort of follow-up play to slow Queen down now at this stage, as his drone count looks like their drone's going to transfer with that Lurker to bottom left, starting to grow as well. Scourge alongside, and I'm glad I had them highlighted because you could just see that micro. It's hard to catch on screen, but just moved out into the Valkyrie. Some wonderful micro there from Queen to wipe that Valkyrie out. The more Mutalisks you construct, the stronger Valkyries get, as those single rockets end up doing spread damage. So you can just think of a single rocket getting all sorts of bonus damage the larger that count grows. Defiler Mound on the way. Hive Tech already in place. An additional creep colony on the front. Queen looking to shell up at this stage, recognizing, I think he's detected that there's no, looks like a single mule's actually going to, wow, that has 6 kills. What a veteran. Going to check top left. An SCV moving out for Sharp. He wants to start securing some additional space. It looks like there's some Overlord hunting now from Sharp, trying to deny what vision he can. Looks like that Mutalisk is going to be able to deny that 12 o'clock base. Another Overlord kill, putting Queen in the red, and that's allowing Sharp to get some additional breathing room. Although he's going to need to dedicate some troops, it looks like, to go ahead and secure his 3rd. The Science Vessel being so much later. Oh, he's gone for some dropships as well. That Medic Marine grouping also getting wiped out by Queen. Another attack, it looks like, pressing the front as well, that I missed. Swept around from the 3rd. Only a single Science Vessel in the air, but this dropship fleet could be incredible. Either pressuring the main, there's a lot of tech to take out here, or dropping into the bottom left. If you can wipe out that Nidus Canal rapidly, could be a big effect. And right now, there's not a mass amount of vision for Queen, still in the red. Another SCV getting picked off, and Irradiate in that grouping. Queen trying to split. Not the best split, so leaving a lot of these Mutalisks heavily damaged. That is going to potentially buy an opening where, first of all, a severe lack of vision for Queen, and secondarily, that Mutalisk are going to have more trouble harassing and denying additional expansions to Sharp. Dropships, looks like one being left out there, loading up. Moving to the spoke, again forcing away that Overlord to deny vision, so it's not quite in range to see these dropships. Science Vessel's also peeking a little bit ahead, and so this is going in completely in the dark. We do have some Scourge in position. That comp-set might have given things away. But Sharp dropping an Irradiate, drawing the Scourge away while dropping. Queen, a fast response to save the drone lines, but the Mutalisk getting completely obliterated in the attack. Lurkers working against the drones, transferring to get to the high ground. Losing the Carapace upgrade at late stages would be fantastic for Sharp. The Defiler Mound would be a big win too. This is a lot of lost time researching. And it looks like, wow, getting Queen's Nest, now working on the spawning pool. Lurkers finally moving in with Defilers. The spawning pool gone, so now it looks like there's only Hydralisks and Mutalisks that can even be constructed, and there goes the Hydralisk Den. So now it is only Mutalisks that Queen can construct. He lost his Queen's Nest as well. Kind of an ironic maneuver for a player named Queen. We have a Defiler Mound reconstructed as well as the spawning pool. No Hydralisk Den as of yet, though. In the bottom left. And I believe, so a few Medic Marines stranded. Drones immediately resupplying, but I think on top of everything else, the Science Vessels, the dropships were able to escape. Some latent Medic Marines going to get wiped out as well. Scourge out in the field to try to do some damage, but also losing that Evolution Chamber and dropping Carapace 1 for an extended period of time means these Medic Marines are going to hit all the harder level 2 weapons, level 1 armor. I do want to note that that is a sizable advantage of the Plague Hydra style, is you're trying to attack weakened units, and so the armor does more damage oftentimes than your, or I should say the Plague does more damage across the board than your flat units at large. So if you position well, if you just micro it just perfectly, it's not as large as of a disadvantage, but it still hurts, and it's going to put even more pressure on Queen to perform. 12 o'clock base being grabbed by Sharp as well. The dropships looking for round 2 rather than going bottom left, going to redrop in the main, want that Spire and potential hatcheries. A smattering of drops. It looks like the Lurker's still in position from the previous drop, however. Some drones being damaged, but Dark Swarm immediately being placed. It looks like this is going to be a much stronger defense. However, that Evolution Chamber getting picked off, and again Carapace being denied, which is going to put all the more pressure on Queen to make sure that Defiler play is impeccable. Lurkers moving forward to try to clear out what's left of the Medic Marines, but more building assassinations. Worker count actually about even. Queen trying to grab the lower natural in this bottom left-hand base, spots it with that factory, is getting aggressive, has a slew of Science Vessels moving in, pelting these Lurkers with Irradiates, and a growing attack force at the corner. It looks like the dropships have also made it out. Some Zerglings looking for a counterattack, maybe at the 12 o'clock location, not spotting those medics as they're making the way across. Hydralisk trying to take care of that factory so that or at least pure troop counts can't be spotted here. The Zergling is going to be able to sweep in, probably going to force a liftoff there at the 12 o'clock location, but Sharp looks like reinforcements are right there. Didn't even get attack on that command center, and now engaging bottom left. Not the best spread, but it looks like he's going to get the Lurkers nevertheless, and that hatchery, the potential 4th gas, going to be lost in exchange for a wonderful Plague on the Science Vessels. We'll see if Sharp pulls them back to repair, or if it just leaves them as is. And you can see with that upgrade differential how fragile these Hydralisks are when they're not under or utilizing the aid of a Defiler. Great trade there from Sharp. Looks like he was able to clear out the Zerglings to the north. SCVs early transferring before that command center's replotted. Queen recognizing he needs to get aggressive to stay relevant in this match. Now running up that right-hand alley. Irradiate's being dropped, pegging that Defiler, which will help neutralize a lot of that attack force for reasons already stated. Yeah, the SCV's distance mining a little bit. More lurkers pressing in towards that third. And Queen having some trouble, well, actually able to get a good amount of kills, having some trouble, though, evicting the troops there in bottom left. Few of them escaping with their lives. And return home, regale tales of previous victories won. Hydraliston has been reconstructed. It looks like it's actually finally getting range upgrades, which just shows you how difficult it's been for Queen thus far. 30 supply deficit. Sharp in a great position, has 2 bases up and running. Already has a defense bunker. If he throws a fire bat in there, will even help against future Defiler incursions. Going to reposition Marines to go ahead and deny the 6 o'clock and also have it off-center to potentially spot should a hatchery be built at the low ground. Third from the bottom left. Double evolution chamber running. +1 carapace, +1 weapons has finished. Finally, those Hydralisks have some range upgrades as well. But again, without the Defiler, these are nearly fully upgraded Marine Medic. So Sharp doing a good job of engaging, getting the favorable trades of Medic Marine versus Hydralisk and backing out before a Defiler is able even to contribute. Also, 3-4 of those science vessels very, very weak. So able to get them out of dodge and still use the irradiates. Gonna move right back out. Another grouping of dropships fully loaded, making their way back again to punish that right-hand corner. I think it actually might be less valuable for Queen as the minerals mostly mined out. Looks like he's got a drone not really there. So mostly mined out. He does have some gas left here, but he really needs to defend a lot of that tech in bottom left. Medic Marines moving in an instant Dark Swarm, but the Nidus Canal gets taken out. That's going to cut off reinforcements from the bottom left. Queen engaging a few troops there on that eastern spoke is going to get some overlords. Some additional plague looks like it's been dropped. The fire bats on the job, hunting that Defiler down. And the drone's going to get cleared out as well. Well, never mind the Defiler, or sorry, the Lurker able to save the day right there. But at the natural expansion, you can see where the upgrades are just making it very difficult, even for these Adrenal upgraded Zerglings, to get things done under Dark Swarm. Usually on even upgrades, that would be insta-kill. Queen looking for a counterattack again at the 12 o'clock. There's already 2 bunkers in place. We have some Defilers in the pack and no latent detection, however. Not sure where the science vessels are out on the field. Looks like they're near that natural. A couple of them heavily damaged. Peck away. So Queen pushing up, clearing out the Medic Marines. Looks like the science vessels are finding that counterattack force. No plague landing and a lot of irradiates. Looks like fine. I was about to say, okay, 1 science vessel wiped out, 2 science vessels picked off, 3 science vessels picked off, actually. So a decent win there for Queen in that regard, but losing a lot of troops for the effort. Going for another attack at the 3rd. Another bunker already being constructed in anticipation of this. The Marines stimming, getting right back in. Flood of Hydralisks. Another science vessel being picked off, but Sharp sweeping around with an attack force. Working a little bit too hard on that Lurker Egg and not the Hydralisks that are now trying to position to get maximum damage. So that's going to get wiped out. You also have some troops going ahead and denying that low ground base from Queen. So Queen still has some Vespene gas there. Has lost his gas at his main. I don't think he's going to reconstruct that for the low count that's remaining. So back down to 3 gas. Wow, that's actually been battered as well. Still engaging a few troops here at the 3rd. Massive supply lead from Sharp. Some of these units have been plagued. And Sharp continuing to happily mine. He's well shelled up. He's got 3 bunkers, it looks like, to the north. More dropships loading up with very injured troops. I presume that's going to go bottom left. Queen re-engaging after cleaning out some medics, it looks like. Some drones actually on transfer getting chased down by fire bats. I don't know that these dropships have been spotted. Some Lurkers and Plague have managed to land at the 12 o'clock. And with the Dark Swarm Zergling there, able to deal with those fire bats. Looks like that might get interrupted. That would be a big win for Queen to try to slow down Sharp's economy. Medic Marines running into a massive amount of troops that now have level 2 weapons, level 2 carapace. But that distractionary attack was allowing the troops to land in the main. However, they're just a sneeze away from perishing themselves. So I don't know that they're getting a lot of value here. So they're just getting wiped out. With that, so it looks like the 12 o'clock is getting disrupted. Sharp is out of resources at the main, so that does hurt. A natural expansion gone as well, so he's basically down to 1 base versus 2 base Zerg. I'll call it 2 and a smidge, which theoretically, economically puts Queen even, and Queen somehow has managed to even out the supplies after wiping out all the SCV at the 12 o'clock and some engagements of the weakened troops in the bottom left. But Sharp regathering rather than attacking bottom left, finding an overlord, and looks like he's going to make a dive at the main. The command center moving out of position as Zerglings swarming as well. Bunker, the final bunker, looks like it's going to get taken out. But Sharp has a massive attack force moving in. 2 defilers quickly irradiated. So now it is just Dark Swarm getting cleared. And I don't know that Dark Swarm's going to be helpful at all, as 4 fire bats walking underneath it. And I cannot see anything underneath there. So Sharp dedicating a few troops to engage and clear out what's left in bottom right, and peeling off the rest of the attack force to engage any reinforcements that might be of aid in the defense of the main. Also, going to just careen past, ignore the Dark Swarm altogether, and engage the natural expansion. So now Queen down to effectively, once this clears out, that's not much of a base left mining. That natural expansion basically gone. It's going to be 1 base versus 2 base. Queen looking like his one option is to go ahead and try to wipe out mining at the remaining base for Sharp and then survive. Trying to regather his troops. Getting caught by reinforcements that I think were headed bottom left. The natural expansion gone. Sharp just diving in with those troops. Queen being harassed by reinforcements rallying across. It looks like he does manage to get a defiler in to maybe get some SCV kills. But this is a very close reinforcement point for Sharp. And the defiler still is, it looks like hasn't consumed anything, so has no resources left to dedicate to this fight. In the meantime, hatcheries are falling bottom left, and it looks like with that, Sharp should be able to clean up what's left. And that will be GG. Game 1 going to Sharp. And I'll be honest with you, at the beginning of all this, I was kind of wondering if Sharp was up to the challenge. That's not to insult his Terran versus Zerg play. He's definitely one of the best. It's simply that Queen is an absolute beast. We're going to have a second try, moving on to one of the more odd maps in Odyssey. Actually should at some point look up the statistical rates on Odyssey, because I would not be shocked if it was Zerg favored in the slightest. Starting in the upper right hand corner, we've got Sharp as the blue Terran. Bottom left hand corner, we have Queen starting as the yellow Zerg. For a refresher on Odyssey, you have that rear natural, which is, you've got the photon cannon blockading it. Less gas than usual, so 3,000 gas, also kind of an odd split of gas at the main, where you have the 4,000 and 1,000. I've yet to see any player utilize the double gas to their advantage. Standard natural expansion with 5,000 gas. Oftentimes Zerg players will skip this base, I think because of that gas deficit, and go ahead and take, from Queen's perspective, this 9 o'clock base that has the full 5,000. It does have that looming, threatening high ground, but it is such a wide space that sometimes it is worth it. And ignore what I'm saying altogether, because Sharp moving out an initial initial SCV to potentially go, I'm wondering if this is going to be an 8-9 racks, and just go for a too early barracks play to bust his opponent. I do like that he's at least going to create some frustration and not let Queen go for a standard macro play, where this might be one of those maps where Zerg try to, because of the utilizable protected third and the threat of Mutalisks to deny that third to Terran, to maybe go for 3 hatchery before anything. especially with the rush distances. The Queen Overlord path is going to go nowhere near that barracks. One problem as far as a follow-up. Ooh, so we got a spawning pool. I believe this was an overpool. Is that an Overlord? Yeah, overpool. Which means a lot of Zerglings are going to be on the ground, and now this could turn into some trouble from Sharp the opposite direction. Although he is going to transition into a 1-1-1, or some variation therein. It's got that refinery building. SCV making its way down. Hatchery to follow, but this is a long distance for these Marines to get back to the main to defend against Zerglings. So they need to be a constant threat towards that front. And if they get surrounded in an open field, Marines die rather rapidly. And this could turn into a really bloody match very, very rapidly in Queen's favor. Extractor being tacked on as well. Marines, I actually love the positioning of these Marines, because with the SCV on the front nearby, what they can do is they can blockade and be a buffer so that the Marines get a better exchange with the Zerglings, and this also de facto defends the main. So yeah, now attacking. I think that definitely caught Queen by surprise. Repositioning, seeing the 5 Zerglings, Sharp going to go ahead and back out, try to rehold that ramp, and again, microing back and forth. We do have the factory underway in Sharp's main, so as soon as he has that Vulture out, this is going to be a little bit less of a threat. Sharp trying to play a cat and mouse game because he doesn't want those Zerglings to cycle all the way around either. 4 Marines now, grouping up. The Zerglings trying to take the long route so that they can at least get into the main. Keep in mind, behind all of this, Queen might have suspicion that it is a 1-1-1, but he doesn't have absolute confirmation as far as what's going on inside Sharp's base. Let's see if he drops a preventative Sunken Colony. He is going for a 2-hatch play. That tends to be a safe response to anything at large. 2-hatch Mutalisk, I should say. The Zerglings confirm that factory, going to try to make their way out, get some Marine kills as well, and those Marines completely wiped out. Those Marines that would have been a great assistance against a following Mutalisk harassment. First Vulture out. Gonna see that starport constructing, and now Sharp needs to build some anti-air in a hurry. As the layer's just finishing, he's gonna have to produce a lot of turrets. Spire dropping behind the lines, a Sunken Colony already constructing. This is a pretty wide natural expansion though. One thing that Sharp can do is utilize this Vulture to try to delay any... Basically go for quick run-bys to pin potential Mutalisks to the front. Vulture takes a couple shots from that Sunken Colony before backing out. But with a speed upgrade, which it looks like we're seeing now, can be a good way to keep Mutalisks occupied while you get some additional anti-air. Overlord trying to scramble out of the way as they are vulnerable out in forward field to the Wraith. Control tower dropping. We'll see if we... This could actually be an interesting transition out if an armory gets dropped as well into the more modern Valkyrie play as well. Overlord getting caught. That I think is going to put Queen in the red. So going to slow down his economy as well. Right as that Spire is finishing. Let's see if... So an Overlord will complete, but... trying to do math in my head pretty rapidly, that might negate a couple of the Mutalisks that might have been constructed. Yeah, that's only leaving room for three supply of Mutalisks, so that delay as well. SCV scouting the front, seeing a hatchery blockade. This looks pretty strong versus these Vultures, but with speed and some amazing micro, you never know. It looks like speed just finishing. I missed it. Able to get into that natural before the Mutalisks spawn, getting a couple drone kills. Drones turning around to defend the main. One Vulture down. The Mutalisks, yeah, on the hunt rather than going towards Sharp side of the field, creating some havoc. Buying Sharp additional... Oh, wow, really bugging out these Mutalisks. Not going to translate into a kill, but that's extra seconds to get more Wraith, some additional turrets, etc. down. So the turrets being constructed, I want to keep that mentally of note that active Mutalisks in the bottom left spawning apparently don't create sufficient time for the turrets to go up in the main. It's that large a space. I trust Sharp to actually know that overall timing, but there's still a minuscule defense force of 5 Marines and a single Wraith. Maybe 2 Wraith by the time these Mutalisks arrive. Make that 4 Marines and dropping. So this is going to be a tough defense now from Sharp. 2 base, 3 hatchery up. Queen, with some comfortable map control, can go ahead and saturate that drone count, even with the 5 Mutalisks, and the rest of the Marines getting pasted. Absolutely obliterated, and that one almost getting the barracks on top of his head. Thanks for the effort. Wraith scooting out. I think they might have gotten an Overlord kill out to the left. Might have missed the timing on that. Science facility being constructed, but in the meantime, Queen, honestly, so he's dropped the Hydralist Den, but he could probably take another base, particularly that protected natural, if he felt like doing so. I was going to comment on, I'm wondering if we're going to see more dropship play here, just because it feels like they can be so effective. Scourge wandering their way out. I think I might have missed Cloak upgrading. I assume these Wraith have Cloak to be so brave moving forward. One immediately getting picked off. There are Overlords at the natural expansion, and Wraith are absolute paper airplanes. But let's see if they can still get something accomplished. At the very least, this is keeping Queen in a more defensive posture once again. Also has this Vulture wandering out, making sure distance bases weren't grabbed, but that 9 o'clock base instead being plopped down from Queen, recognizing there's not really any ability from Sharp to stop it. And this is turning into the standard mech, the classic mech versus Zerg style, where every unit counts, but effectively Sharp is at 1 base where Queen shortly could be at 3, and Vultures and Wraith do not take down hatcheries very rapidly. Cloak completing. So the Wraith remaining. Okay, another Overlord slowly going to make its way out. And it looks like the Mutalisk is going to risk chasing down that Wraith for it to run out of energy. Yeah, trying to follow the shadow. It looks like realizing the energy isn't going to be sufficient, going to take some free damage. Kind of a turnabout is fair play. The Vulture trying to scoot out to preserve itself. Sharp still not taking an additional base, so he's going to be all in effectively. Transitioning back to 3 barracks. I assume Science Vessel Irradiate to deal with the Mutalisk and a Siege Tank, so he needs to hit very, very rapidly as supply counts are already in Queen's favor. That 9 o'clock base and gas shortly going to be online, and Hive Tech halfway finished. The Irradiate needs to be incredible, and right now, some additional Marines dying before that Irradiate is even, I believe, completed research. Finally, the Irradiate finishing. Queen getting an okay split. Trying to dive that Mutalisk skin so it does some self-damage. Kind of do the while you're hitting yourself, Terran style of play. Hydralisks already grouping up. So we got +1 weapons, Marines, a Wraith, a Science Vessel, all of which have seen better days, a little bit damaged, moving across the field to engage a Zergling Hydralisk Mutalisk army that has a 10 supply lead approximately. And I think we have Siege Tech, yeah, just now being researched. Doesn't look good for Sharp, but if anyone can do it, he can. Gonna move up to the 9 o'clock. The problem is even taking that 9 o'clock, that's not all that worrisome for Queen. He's still got additional bases to work with. A huge army. Looks like it's thinking about sweeping to go for a counterattack at the main. And instead, repositioning now that that hatchery's gone to hunt down the Leighton army. Some drones potentially providing detection. And this, yeah, Queen just going to stomp this army out, I think is the plan here. Has a group of Zerglings to the south, just in case there's some attempted exit. The Science Vessel picked off, and that army is gone. And that is a base. Yeah, Sharp going to GG right there, recognizing he was all in and economically unable to keep up. So, on Odyssey, we've got a win going to Queen. I have to say, though, I like the adjustment in play from Sharp. Again, trying to keep Queen on his heels, not letting him go. So even though it's a loss, not letting him just play the sit to macro level up style. We're going to go ahead and move on to Neo-Silfid. Neo-Silfid, one of these Sharp starting the bottom left-hand corner as the yellow Terran. We have Queen in the bottom right as the very stylish orange Zerg. Kind of like this color combo. Three-player isometric map. Always find like this is one of those true tests of map control mid-game. As you have that natural expansion, you do have the securable gas at only a 15 count, which usually Zerg kind of skip, and will grab the more plush 5,000 gas up on the ramp, and that's also defensible by lurker play, but you don't have an additional base that you can just walk out, grab the main, and then sidle down, and then take the natural expansion to secure 4 gas, which means you have to get more aggressive as far as your mid-game follow-up. We'll see how Sharp plays it. And I feel, yeah, that as a result, troop movement, keeping an eye on your opponent, it's a bit of a smaller map. But being able to position, maintain that map control, big plays. And I'm wondering if Queen is going to opt to be more aggressive. Maybe even rely on... I can't remember the last time I saw him just go for a straight-up 2-hatch Mutalist play and try to run his opponent over. Although I will say the quality of Mutalist harassment in Game 1 shows that maybe that would be possible. Barracks under construction, interior to the base this time for Sharp. Sending out that initial SCV scout. We have an Overlord that's actually making its way to the north. And this could actually be a bigger factor than usual, because what this also does is with the Overlord pinned to the northern location, that potentially denies a good amount of information to Queen down the line. Because usually that Overlord can hover just above the natural and you can see the amount of Marines being built, things like that. It is possible Sharp can capitalize on that once he moves in with that SCV and recognizes the Overlord positioning, which I think he is right now, and knows where his opponent is beyond a shadow of a doubt. Spawning pool being constructed, a quick extractor. I think that was around the 202 mark. I'm just going to assume it's 202 because it's Queen. I'm actually curious how Queen's mineral boosting is. Still no additional barracks on the front or gas grab for Sharp. Positioning a Marine to the forward position. I'm wondering if this is going to be... So we have a second barracks and now the gas being grabbed. So this looks like a one base press before even command center. So a very rapid attack on the front. Sharp playing very aggressively this entire match. So definitely, yeah, trying to utilize the fact that the Overlord is not in position to scout what's happening over the natural. And the Marines taking this forward slot so that they can push away drone scouts, Zergling scouts, and deny information regarding the natural expansion. On top of that, Queen playing a little bit light on the initial Zerglings. Looks like that, however, that drone has managed to get fantastic harassment on that SCV, so they might not be necessary as far as hunting that SCV down. 2-hatch to Mutalisk play for Queen. That has been his go-to thus far. An SCV moving forward, actually. So acting like this is an additional scout to replace this SCV, but really providing some forward information to the Marines as far as Zergling positioning. So killing that Zergling way before and not revealing that there's a 5th Marine in place. As the count grows, Stim already researching, this is going to be a very rapid attack. Could very likely catch Queen by surprise. Looks like that SCV did not escape with its life. Salute to all the fallen SCVs giving their lives to get the scouting information. Spire finishing. SCV going to pull out once again. 5 Zerglings, 6 Zerglings in tow. No, never mind. Gonna move back in again. I think sacking that a little bit to buy some additional time. Now, Queen very likely has no idea this is coming. We see no movement to drop sunken colonies. In fact, we see a second extractor being grabbed, but now The Zerglings find that forward attack force. That should be a big alert. Sunken's dropping immediately, but is it too late? 3 Sunkens on the field. You can see one of them with minerals in hand, showing you the urgency. A drone pulling its way back across. Some Zerglings trying to get what marine kills they can, actually getting some decent kills. Sunken colonies morphing. Stim finishing the central Sunken colony being targeted. Drones initially looking like they're going to pull. Firebat here, however, to blockade. The initial damage being done, so when they spawn, they're just one hit away. Zerglings trying to surround. Not quite able to, though, and that third Sunken colony going to fall. Drones press back, and that is GG. Sharp with a quick win to take game 3 on Neo-Silfid. And I love the, I think that was one of those decided builds rather than a pre-game commit. I think he saw that Overlord at a position at the third base and recognized he could get away with it and executed it perfectly. Just denied all the, and granted, it's kind of like, oh, this is, you know, a standard Terran, whatever. But the thing is he just also just delivered with flair, is what I want to comment. So yes, quick Terran push rush sort of style, but at the same time, I want to give credit where credit's due. You're going to move on to Neo-Arcanoid, which is a extremely odd map. Pseudo Island. I like the actual Pseudo Island construction that is attempts of Neo-Arcanoid. So you have chrysalises across 2 shared bases. So you've got double shared naturals, but they're blockaded by, for at least Terran Creep and Chrysalis, but just the Chrysalis for Zerg. You've got a bunch of temples and power generators in the light blue on the map, blockading everything else. And then otherwise, it's just 4-player across the field. Part of my StarCraft meta brain wonders if this is what potentially caught this map in particular, and the resurgence of attempts at island maps is what maybe provoked the development of some of the more Valkyrie-oriented play to try to deal with rapid Mutalisk play. Because one problem for Terran, pulling vision back, is you have this main and then either this natural expansion or this natural expansion. You can see all of the space in between where you need to defend and reinforce, which is an absolute field day for Mutalisks to jump on and take out. Spawning pool and extractor at 123, which lets you know this is going to be, so we're seeing 1 base Mutalisk play. Queen definitely wants air control, and that will be, so the way this game is going to play out from here is Queen is going to try to establish air control. Sharp is going to have to play on the defensive, and if Sharp can repel, just bunker in somehow and repel attacks and somehow manage to hold a stronger economy than Queen through all of that, he might be able to swing it back around to where he can at least field some troops on the map. I feel like dropship play is a little bit much to ask. It's probably easier to just chew through power generators and whatnot via ground movement, but point being, potentially a tall task. Already a mutation to layer. Overlords being sent to the top left and bottom right. Command center actually being constructed at a position alongside a barracks, off kind of a 14 command center economic build. And I like the supply depot on that front edge to detect any sort of troops trying to take down those temples as a forewarning. 4 Zerglings constructed for Queen to go ahead and wipe out the Chrysalis, it looks like, to this northern base in order to grab him an additional expansion. Layer already halfway finished. I'm going to presume that Sharp recognizes that this is one of those maps where that's a secondary problem actually for Terran is just being able to scout and garner information on this map. Until you have Comsat, you really are in the dark. So I think you have to presume that it is going to be a 1-hatch Mutalisk play and go for builds with that assumption in mind. 1 base being grabbed already. Zerglings going to march their way down to that southern base, open something up there. Spire being dropped and gas being collected from Queen for those Mutalisks. It looks like the SCV initially just going to mine out of position. You can see even here, trying to manage all of this. Quite the challenge. As even with this spread, it's like, how do you defend this with turrets? Hopefully these Chrysalists will be down before Mutalisks are already in the base. I believe that, I'm just going to assume the timing of such works out such that it is. This is a very vulnerable position for the factory. And I'm also curious if this factory indicates that we are in fact going to see Valkyries as a faster, earlier unit. Queen dropping the ball a little bit with the Zerglings. Looks like checking the perimeter just to make sure that Marines weren't trying to hunt their way through. Other fun thing about these sort of maps is because there's a larger lack of information, I think you just end up with some of the more interesting play. Big worker advantage to Sharp initially. It looks like the SCVs do need to get back. Yeah, bad transfer there for a second. The barracks going to reposition. It's more defensive slot. Engineering bay being planted. Starport as well, and an armory. So it looks like we are going to see Valkyries. Some Marines towards that forward temple, just in case the Zerglings were opening it up. Looks like we do have Zerglings working on the Protoss temples on the opposite side to allow some potential ground forces to make their way across. The initial Mutalisks taking flight. Let's see if we see turrets in construction. Not yet. Actually, I'm wondering about the timing of this. So Mutalisks are already here. Engineering bay just finished. Are the turrets going to be in time? This could be scary. Okay, so there's the turrets initially constructing. It looks like they're making their way towards the natural. That turret was placed immediately. So Queen heading... So that is fortunate for Sharp that Queen is heading towards the base that has the initial turret in construction. Overlord spots it. The Mutalisks repositioning. But turrets are there in time. And yeah, this is the problem I was talking about. Look at all this space. The Mutalisks already shooting into that gap, trying to hunt for Marines. That turret not quite finished, so they did find a gap. Several SCVs losing their lives for the effort. Looks like, however, some bad reinforcement locations for Queen. So Mutalisk needlessly taking damage. That third base just about online for him. So 7 Mutalisks, some of them have taken some free damage. Ooh, I like that. The turret placement to deny the Mutalisks from sweeping across. And Queen, because he did go for that one base... Oh, actually, his supply blocked himself as well. So running into trouble here. Lost a Mutalisk right there. And now the Valkyrie's out. Pushing those Mutalisks away. And again, each rocket hits all of them in the bunch. Some Zerglings have... You can see the path they've opened up towards that northern edge. It looks like they're currently halting. So thus far, Sharp doing a great job of repelling that initial harassment, getting more Valkyries, and it looks like a task force that can go between point A and point B. That Valkyrie could escort those Marines underneath. Evolution Chamber dropping, Hydralisk Den, and Lurker Tech now being researched. Queen does have the 3 bases up. Just starting to mine gas at that natural expansion. Might want to get some better saturation to the south. Has gotten, what, 3 SCVs for that 1 hatch opener, and probably needed to do more than that for such a heavy investment. Early investment in opportunity more than anything. Sharp now with 2 Valkyries and a third one on the way. 3 seems to be the magic number. Opening up the Protoss temple so he can start walking his way across the grounds. The Mutalisks engaging, but you just see, look at that health drop to the Valkyrie fire. Scourge trying to position some nice micro there. That's some of that new fangled micro. That's not the old stuff. It's the new fangled micro with those Valkyries punishing those Scourge. I love this barracks just sitting here, continuing to produce Marines, so this is just a true fortress against any sort of air incursion. Third gas being grabbed at Queen's Nest as well to make a tech towards Hive. But Sharp has started to open up the middle. Looks like he's producing a siege tank as well. I assume siege tech is going to follow. Science facility about halfway complete. And decent air control where he might start hunting some overlords. And this is again going to keep Queen somewhat blind. He'll have to scout effectively with his face with these Mutalisks and rely on them to provide forward information. Right now, I'm not sure that he has the realization that medic marines are slowly making their way through the middle of the map towards his expansions. See if the Zerglings end up spotting it shortly. Also, the Zerglings doing a little bit of a favor here where we already have a gap open towards the main. Now that's been spotted. Scourge able to take out at least one of the Valkyries. The Lurkers, with the lack of detection, going to be able to press up. But we do have that siege tank to follow. Siege tanks do end up ranging the Lurkers, and you also have that science vessel out shortly as well. But this is a very dangerous gap to try to press through for Sharp with those Lurkers on the low ground. But Sharp currently with a solid economic lead, transitioning back to looks like 5 racks with some siege tank support. The Valkyrie's still in the air, so we can apply pressure at multiple locations. So yeah, this is again one of those things where in my head I'm like, is this the map that made the modern Valkyrie metas? Seeing how it plays out and how effective it is on Neo-Arcanoid in particular. Sunken colonies being dropped at all locations as there's a massive amount of territory to try to defend. Sharp has yet to grab a third. Doesn't really need to at this stage. Some Firebats joining as well. I'm not sure if I missed the siege check upgrade or not. Looks like an SCV now moving out to potentially grab that third base. The Scourge actually providing the forward scouting. Looks like, okay, siege check did finish. That's going to push those Lurkers back. And now Sharp at a triple prong location where he can attack either to the north, threaten that base. He can start attacking towards the east and attack this base, or he can go ahead and push into the main, or do all 3 or 2 at once. Create havoc. Scourge not able to land on that science, so that would have been a real hit to Sharp, as he wouldn't have been able to detect Lurkers. The Valkyries making themselves useful, although one of them losing their lives. I think feeling confident after these Mutalisks. Well, first of all, after the Marine count is much larger, +1 weapons and all the upgrades are in tow. That is a big Lurker line to try to defend this, but they're going to go ahead and slot through and try to position to the south. So the Lurkers trying to group up. Defense Matrix trying to provide some distraction, but not quite able to. So it was a nice effort there. Enough of an attack force is through, though, where Sharp still going to have to trail this, and Lurkers losing their lives as they're trying to walk into hostile forces. Also, it looks like some troops managed to sneak through to the opposite base as well. So a lot of disruption in mining for Queen, losing some drones there, losing some drones here, and he's been plummeted down to 25 drones and dropping. Finally, this is getting cleaned up, but not before massive damage has been executed. Also, it looks like he's going to, with the Lurkers pushing out, was going to try to go for an attack at the main. I'm not sure what building this was. Might have been an engineering... Sorry, not engineering bay. Might have been an evolution chamber that lost its life. At least that's the... Or possibly the Queen's... No, the Queen's Nest is there. Yeah, I think an evolution chamber got dropped. Again, delaying upgrades. So Sharp lost a lot of attack forces, but decimated Queen's economy. And it looks like he's going to go ahead and... Wow, that SCV really doing work. I'm not sure if I missed... Maybe they were dropped in here, because now a dropship moving in. Hydralisks and Lurkers in position to anticipate this. Lurker very quickly getting focus fired down. But I don't think this is going to be much of an attack otherwise. Still, Sharp keeping Queen on his toes. Big supply lead. Is going to maintain the upgrade lead, although Carapace 1 at least finished before that that evolution chamber was taken out. I'm not sure if it was maybe Spines 1, something else potentially upgrading there. And I'm not even sure that was an evolution chamber, so I should hold my tongue. Defiler is finally out on the map, but that is a single Defiler and no Nidus Canals and 3 bases and a massive amount of territory. So what was the problem for Terran to defend against Mutalisk in the early stages of the game is now turning into a problem for Queen in the middle stages of the game. Has to weather Sharp and engage into a really strong microforce. You can see the Lurkers remaining unburrowed to try to respond to this threat. And Sharp doesn't even need to engage across that section. He can go ahead and blow open the power generator Zelnaga temples and go for attacks at additional locations. It looked like that SCV was disrupted here at the 6 o'clock by those Mutalisks, but those Mutalisks might want to surge back to try to deal with the prescient threat. Another grouping of medic marines. I also love how Sharp is just sending these groupings out. Does that science vessel have enough for irradiate? Not quite. Dropship looks like it is going to get caught. At the very least, that's spotting the Mutalisks, however. Marines moving in to engage. The science vessel remaining behind briefly. Wanted 5 more energy for an irradiate to take them out of the field. Third command center being constructed. Is it going to float top left? Kind of curious where that's headed, or if it's going to float all the way bottom right. Lurker Defilers trying to push back that attack force, getting on top of some siege tanks, might be able to wipe them out before they're able to unsiege and withdraw. Queen buying himself some time, but still not at the drone count he wants. Fortunately for him, because of Sharp splitting the tech, the science vessel count is a bit lower. But unfortunately for him, that's a lot of siege tanks. And Defilers need to be in position immediately to deal with this. Sharp going for it along this right-hand side, having trouble getting past his own siege tanks, however. And we do have a Lurker right there. Zergling's now flooding in. Yeah, just because of the problem getting through that gap. Queen able to respond, even though it was a bit of a delayed response, going to be able to hold. Might just be trying to bait out the Defilers to continue with the irradiations and withdraw. And honestly, this is a brilliant tactic from Sharp. Engage at a location, draw out the Defiler, irradiate it, withdraw. That means there's no Defiler to try to defend at an external location. Or at least one less. To really keep Queen's gas taxed. Could make Californian Republican complaints about our gas prices here as a joke, but I'll just allude to it rather than making the full joke. Sharp also grabbing the 6 o'clock in firm control. Lurker briefly able to get under that swarm and get a shot at one of those siege tanks, but the splash damage from the siege tanks clearing it out otherwise. And now Queen in, yeah, a bit of a conundrum. And another sizable attack force plus 2 fully loaded dropships moving out to make matters worse. The Mutalisks pushing in, but you already have a line of Marines as a firing squad. Queen trying to take the upper angle, but that quickly got chewed through. Plus 2 weapons being there to thank for that. Sharp pressing in a little bit closer. Siege tanks in striking distance. The dropships potentially going to negate. Oh, so actually positional move. Queen now recognizing that it was maybe a feint. The Defiler already has some energy. The Scourge not quite able to land. Oh, sorry, they are able to land. Take out some troops there. Sharp drawing back. But this is still units that are not turning into drones for Queen. More gas that's getting expended. The science vessel's swarming out. Again, able to find that Defiler. We have another Defiler out. Looks like both Defilers are down. So as soon as that Dark Swarm is gone, if Sharp gathers the forces and attacks at any location, it's going to be challenging for Queen to defend. So now, while that Swarm's still up, pressing the matter, able to get on top of the siege tanks, wipe out a few Marines. This is a distance reinforcement point. Looks like some latent troops that were out of that dropship still there, occupying some attack forces to the north. More radiates on those Lurkers being dropped, and it almost feels like the positioning that is forced out of Queen is allowing for just bonus irradiates from Sharp on these expensive gas units, leaving Queen absolutely gas starved. Also, yeah, that command center floating out to the 9 o'clock. So now we got 4 base Terran versus 3 base Zerg, which is an advantage to Sharp. 20 worker lead. Looks like another SCV who's managed to sneak out top left. That Overlord's going to spot it. I don't know that there's a lot that Queen can do about it. So Sharp putting on an absolute positioning clinic. Science vessel getting wiped out there. Dropships looking to breach the interior wall. Actually dropping in to the protected interior where only Lurkers and some spotting could deal with them. Plague dropping to try to soften them up to negate that advantage. Medic Marines also pressing in. Otherwise, I don't know if that Sunken Colony is within range or not. Trying to press out of range of those Lurkers. That was a brilliant, I have to say, maneuver by Queen to immediately plant those Lurkers on the edge to push that siege tank back, but it doesn't look like it's going to be sufficient to keep this hatchery alive. More irradiates being dropped from Sharp. The science vessels have been extremely active, and a continuation attack towards the main, although there looks like some troops are having some trouble from Sharp moving to the north. This is also cutting off the reinforcements, so that might be a dead hatchery by the time these Hydralisks get here. Dark Swarm in place. The siege tank still able to splash from the north, however. Another science vessel is taken out, so that's at least helpful. But the hatchery is now gone, and now Queen down to 2 bases. Granted, the main is mined out, but the 6 o'clock base and 9 o'clock base potentially going to saturate. And it looks like an SCV is in position to grab yet another expansion. A huge supply lead for Sharp as well. And losing this gas in an already gas-starved position for Queen is devastating. Plus, look at this mass of units making the way. That is a big blob of blue making its way to the center. Still some stranded Marines in the mid position right there. Did the siege tanks just die? I think they might have just died over the wall rather than being evacuated. Queen moving out, trying to regain control of the middle of the map. Their Defiler being instantly irradiated, however. And this was with nothing sieged at the forward location. Looks like a plague was dropped from the right-hand side, but I believe that means there was another dead Defiler at that position as well. Still some medic Marines pocketed, denying maybe some... I'm not sure if there were units that managed to sneak out that location. Sharp re-engaging to take out the hatchery to Queen South. Single lurker trying to do its best, but it is not sufficient. There's GG from Queen, recognizing he just doesn't have the gas to keep this rolling. So once again, Sharp taking a match. And honestly, I felt like that was on what is a very challenging map, but really made a clinic of it. We're going to move on to Butter. But if you want to talk about instances of revenge, we are looking at a current score of 3-1. And granted, we're going to be playing all 7 games anyway, and so, you know, it's for funsies. But if this game is won on Butter by Sharp, I do believe we can declare that revenge was secured. And right now, Sharp has proven that he's up to the task of taking Queen out. Butter, my favorite of the new maps that have been fielded. Upper right-hand corner, we have Queen starting as the yellow Zerg. Bottom right-hand corner, we have Sharp starting as the purple Terran. My brain almost wants to see another forward Rax from Sharp, mostly because of the prevalence of... My brain is moving more towards Protoss play these days, where we've seen a lot of forward gateways versus Terran on this map. Maybe with the potential of that, we could see Queen maybe even opt to go for a 9 pool. It is a 2-player map. Overlord starting to make its way out immediately. But I have to say, yeah, Sharp, particularly in that last match, looked great. If I recall, oddly enough, even though it's a very small advantage, it seems crazy, but Terran do have, I think, a winning percentage on Neo-Arcanoid by like some small margin. It's like 52%, something like that. After my last cast of Neo-Arcanoid, I went and checked the statistics just to see what they looked like, because it is just such a weird map. Sharp going for a forward blockade, which signals he's definitely thinking about grabbing his natural expansion. Queen going for an Overlord first build. We don't see any signs of a spawning pool, so probably going to go for a 12 hatchery or 11 hatchery. We have this gap along that right-hand edge for Sharp, where Zerglings or other units potentially could flood through, so he's going to need to babysit that with some Marines or potentially SCVs to block the gap. Hatchery constructing for Queen in the meantime. Sending out an SCV scout. Get eyes on his opponent. The other problem with this is I don't believe that this angle, if this is where I wish I could remember all the Terran whatnots. I should have it memorized by now, but I believe that's also a shootable gap. So this could be a challenging wall to defend. More often what I've seen is the barracks down below and then 2 supply depots kind of at staggered angles to provide the defense, or not even bothering there at all, instead getting kind of a bunker out in the field preventatively. Command center constructed, SCV able to scout the gas. That thus far signals that it's more likely than not going to be 2 Ash Mutalisks once again. The drone boxing away that Marine. I do find it interesting that Queen has dedicated drones. So cut into his mineral count a little bit to push away that SCV. Okay, so additional supply depot. This is an interesting front door. So supply depot being dropped to, I think, negate that edge, but this edge still exists. Interesting. Refinery being grabbed from Sharp as a follow-up as well. And he, yeah, grabbing that command center. He still hasn't built a Marine. Okay, there's the first Marine. The SCV getting the scouting information, I guess, to give him a signal that maybe it wasn't necessary. 2 Zerglings being built. Overlord actually going into... I don't know if that was a heads-up recognition of the lack of Marines, but this Overlord going into Danger Town to confirm the gas. But going to be able to scoot back out just because of the lack of an attack force on the front. But also able to confirm that... So, okay, it looks like being built in the bottom right. Engineering Bay first build, so eBay and Academy first. So this is going to be maybe a +1/5 racks from Sharp. Third base being grabbed from Queen. Going to more of the standard, the old standard Zorg meta. Let's see if he grabs his gas at the natural in a bit to go for a heavier Mutalisk dedication in the mid-game. SCV trying to deny that SCV additional information, but one problem for this in the past has been whenever you go for just the 1 racks opener, sitting on 1 racks for such a long period of time leaves you vulnerable to Zergling all ends at times. Right now, though, Queen showing no indication of that as I see 2 additional Zergling spawn. But particularly with kind of the odd gap on the front, looks like the Overlord testing that front door just to get eyes. A medic being produced as well. Now we're seeing that additional barracks flood. One advantage of this style, Spire, on the way is with that +1 weapons coming out so much more rapidly, it allows Marines to bully Mutalisks much more rapidly. Expecting to see that count grow to 5 shortly. And I kind of like it, honestly. I think it's, especially if you have really strong Marine micro, it's solid. 4th hatchery being placed in base. So we're going to see 4 hatchery Mutalisk play from Queen. Maybe recognizing that this is more a defensive position with the lighter barracks count. Going for more of a quick macro-oriented play. Does have that 3rd gas available, but not yet sealed. 2nd gas now surging for him. Let's see if he goes for... This almost leads me to believe he's not even go for much of a Mutalisk harass on the mineral lines, despite that quick command center. Range upgrading. +1 weapons just over halfway finished. 3 barracks almost completed, and the 4th at the front. I'm not seeing an SCV in position to... Okay, maybe that SCV? To build the 5th just yet. Mutalisk starting to take the field. And Queen transferring some drones, it looks like, to top left. Get that base well saturated. Turrets coming online on that natural expansion. No, interesting. So no, it's no 5th barracks. It looks like this is going to be a 4 barracks instead, which still produces a lot of Marines, but isn't an over dedication in the mid game. Allows the, I think, the option to go ahead and go up to the 3rd or apply pressure. See if that barracks floats back to that right hand corner. The Marines already making their way out as +1 weapons on the verge of completing. Overlord taking some damage over that far wall. And yeah, the Mutalisks look like they're going to try to shoot that angle, want to pick off some Marines, taking a few turret shots for their efforts, but it's not the 5 full Mutalisks. Again, Queen with that in-base hatchery playing much more macro-oriented. And Sharp, actually with the 4 barracks, might be in a position to punish it. We'll see. Queen has surged up to 31 drones, dangerously close to even worker count for Sharp. But is he going to have sufficient Mutalisk and Mutalisk micro to wipe out that Marine ball at the main? +1 weapons is upgrading as well. Some Marines just kind of scooting out, surveying the situation. Zergling sweeping across. Look like they want to try to... So I think this Overlord might have the edge of that position. I don't know if these Mutalisks want to engage against this +1 weapon upgraded army or not. They do. Oof. It will get a couple kills there, but one Mutalisk very rapidly getting taken out. Another large army moving out from that 4 barracks production. And Sharp with a pretty sizable attack force out in the front. Factory constructing. Looks like that barracks just folded back towards that natural to provide a little bit more of a protective bubble, potentially, to get back to defend that command center and also not have to worry about Mutalisk harass over that edge. Queen doing his best to try to whittle this attack force down. He's already got a fantastic economy. Some Zerglings joining the group and an entire secondary group of Mutalisks being built. Supply lead, which is usually scary for Terran. +1 weapons has completed, but I worry about Sharp's ability to contend with Queen's macro at this stage. Queen swarming the Medic Marines. Completely obliterating that. And he has enough Mutalisks to be punishing as far as a follow-up as well. Double starport complete. I don't see the science facility as of yet, unless it's... Is that it? Yeah, science facility being constructed. The Zerglings testing the front, the factory floating back, a defensive barrack bunker being constructed, and the Mutalisks in large numbers diving on the main, completely obliterating all of the turrets there. And Sharp's SCV line completely exposed, having to fight the Sim City, and +1 weapons is finished on these Mutalisks as well. I think they might practically outnumber the Marines here. So this is Danger Town all the way around. Having bad positioning. Yeah, stimming without medics as well. And Queen just repositioning to wipe out what he can. Losing a few additional Mutalisks, but wreaking a lot of damage. Oof, look at the carnage. Just nothing but building debris. Re-engaging at the natural as well. I think he recognizes that he's got a huge supply lead. Again, wiping out these turrets with just a glance. The Marines, yeah, lining up, and Sharp wisely GGing here, saying, let's go ahead and take it to another game. And here where I was about to say, I don't know, maybe Sharp's got Queen's number. Queen proving that he is still Queen. Or I guess King? We'll keep it... Is there a Monarch? He's still Monarch. There. Easier way to avoid... It gets particularly confusing with, you know, Queen actually being in the name. I preferred it when his name was Zero, to be honest. I felt like Zero was a really good moniker to hold. Queen, I guess, is more Zerg-esque, and maybe he wanted... like one of those maybe he felt looked over a little bit since Jaedong was given the name Tyrant. I'll stick with Monarch. Bottom left-hand corner, we have Queen starting as the orange Zerg. Upper right corner, we have Sharp starting as the white Terran. This is on Nemesis. Nemesis opens up a lot of opportunities for creativity, as you have the, on either side, flanking sides, Zerg eggs that can be taken down, which opens up access to that high ground over the natural expansion. Although I don't know that it's high ground, because my understanding is, this is where I'm not sure. This might actually be high ground, but the rest of Nemesis, including this area here, this is all even. So there's no misfire range count for the rest of the map, effectively. So it's all even ground otherwise. Overlord making its way out to the upper left-hand corner. SCV scooting out on it. Very early SCV for Sharp. Is he going to go for another 8 racks or forward 8 racks? Is this going to be 8-9 racks? Let's see. Building it just at the forward location. Again, maybe wanting to punish a 12th hatchery. We'll see if he dedicates additional troops to do so. Queen moving out his own SCV to scout very early. Wants to see what his opponent's up to. Or was he going to go for, I mean, possibly a proxy hatchery? That'd be kind of clever. No, checking middle of the map. Now going bottom right. Very early scouting. I think it's wise considering all of the variety of builds we've seen from Sharp thus far. And he might catch that barracks even earlier than usual. This is a huge map, honestly, to try to pull this off on. So it very well may catch Queen off guard just because of just the space to try to make it happen. 2 SCV looking to try to find... Unfortunately for Sharp, this is going to be at cross position, which is going to make execution all the harder. The drone harassing that SCV now that it's discovered location. Unfortunately, the SCV not bothering to continue scout pulling off, so Sharp still having to hold position as he doesn't know the location of Queen's base. And actually, the drone coming out early might have created some confusion, but I take it back. Sharp able to do some math, not finding anything bottom right, recognizing the drone must have gone to bottom right in its scouting pattern. But let's see if he continues with this. Yeah, the Marines continuing forward. This will require a drone pull, but this is going to be a larger number of drones, I believe, than initial stages. Bunker attempting to get constructed, but that SCV exposed along that southern edge. Wow, that's a lot of drones. So 10 drones on defense now. And yeah, this is going to be a dead attack, it looks like, from Sharp. Trying to buy himself some time. The drones getting us around. 2 of them falling, 3 of them down. 1 Marine down, the SCV's gone. Able to get a good amount of drones in that attack, but lost all of the Marines for the effort and is going to need to cancel that bunker. So also needs to get some defenses up as the Zerglings, now that they take the field, depending on the number. I don't know if Queen's going to dedicate a lot or not, actually, considering the distance positioning. The Overlord making its way across to get additional scouting information. Base being constructed. This time, in comparison to game 1, you can see that the worker count much closer after the initial harassment. So I think I want to call this a failure overall for Sharp. Drone actually moving out. Is he going to grab a third before? So he's got gas up, but it looks like this might be a third before layer. I kind of like this play from Queen. SCV is making it into the main. 4 Marines making the way out, so this is more shenanigans. That Zergling's going to see them at the off position, so that might cause additional Zerglings to be constructed and more or less hold to make sure that there aren't any egg takedowns. Second barracks being built. 6 o'clock hatchery and layer still being morphed. I feel like this is kind of a cool map for Hydra Lurk style mid-game. I would be a little bit surprised if Queen does do that here, though. Just because Mutalisks able to go above these eggs are invaluable and provide just a massive amount of scouting information. At the same time, Lurkers on these lines able to wipe out everything simultaneously. Pretty valuable as well. That barracks on the front being pulled back. We do have, I was looking for the academy, in the upper right-hand corner, hidden by the scoreboard. Can I take away? Trying to remember what the hotkey is to take that away. I'm not going to bother just in case I mess something else out on the map, which has happened on more than one occasion. We're pretty deep into this recording. 3 bases up, hatchery finishing. That's going to be 3 very quick gas. Looks like the SCV managing to get through to spot that. But not with this, only a ghost can get through, and I don't think... That would be amazing to see Queen go to Ghost just to try to spite take that hatchery out with a single Ghost, but I don't see that happening overall. This SCV now stranded, gonna just kind of pocket itself in the corner. Zerglings making the way out. The Marines and medics trying to hide, but that's also leaving a walk space for the Zerglings to just make their way in. Spot the fire back. Good surround on it, though, taking it out immediately. But Sharp still dedicating his attack forces forward. Some SCVs pulling off, trying to defend and create some disruption. More Zerglings spreading their way out. 2 creep colonies, although need to morph now, because I don't think Sharp is going to pull back. Spire not yet complete. Comsat going in, and yeah, okay, this might have been a mistake. Zerglings still creating some havoc there at the main. But Queen being a little bit negligent and losing some colony. Drones briefly pulled. One of them heavily damaged. Zerglings still creating havoc. And getting additional SCV kills. SCV drill able to wipe a few of them out, but not before Queen very nearly closing the worker gap entirely, which is terrifying for a Terran. And he's still running off 2 barracks plus 1 weapons, just now upgrading. Honestly, if Queen just builds a group of Mutalisks with the Zerglings he's got, he could probably wipe out the attack force that's there. It needs to haul back to the main immediately. The Zerglings in full tow, because if they get wiped out, Zergling speed continuing to delay, the Zergling's going to try to take a cutoff route. The Mutalisks making their way across as well. Yeah, they need to get bunched up where they can defend against the air that's there. Zergling's able to close the gap in between, a bunker being constructed. And this is also expending a lot of that medic energy with the stims. Drawing a lot of them out of position. Only 4 Mutalisks, however. Still able to get some kills. Testament to Queen's micro. The rest of the mules starting to group up. That one focus fire Mulist might have been a savior from Sharp, but he's still in a terrible position where you've got 3 base Zerg up and running. You've only got the 2 barracks floating. It looks like he's got that starport on the way. But this is a lot of Mutalisks. 9 Mutalisks, which means they can double shot these turrets. And they're just diving into that sweet spot. And the SCV line, once again, this is looking like a repeat of the previous match. And nothing but SCV kills along the way, dropping that count to 33. Keep in mind, one of them is stranded here. And try to see it on map right there. Although, while I looked away, it looks like a lot of the Mutalisks getting peeled. Absolutely wrecked. Shouldn't have moved the vision away. I don't know that it makes much of a difference, though. Tech the Hive. +1 weapon's about halfway finished. Queen doesn't need to produce any additional Mutalisks. His economy is sailing in comparison. He's got 3 gas comfortably up and running. And I don't know that there's a lot that Sharp can do to combat this. It looks like he's going to go for a factory follow-up. Maybe get a siege tank out, but usually you want 3 barracks running with this, and he's just now planning that 3rd barracks now. Still needs to get a science vessel out, potentially to deal with Lurker Tech, which is about halfway complete for Queen. And this is also going to be a push at cross map. Actually, it looks like, I assume those Mutalisks just got split off and repositioned instead of getting wiped out that rapidly. It's the problem with camera work. Late stages of this. I do like how the disruption web goes up to the air, so Mutalisks don't get free attacks. SCV was spotted and mutilated, but doesn't make a difference. Queen with the lead. Macro hatches, Defiler Mound plopping down a Nidus Canal as well. That feels a little bit unnecessary. We're going to have 10 Mutalisks grouping up with +1 weapons in just a moment, I believe. Yeah, I think I missed it on the... Yeah, I missed it on the click away. A Valkyrie going across the map with the Medic Marines. Siege tanks following. Siege tech researching. Just about complete. So this is going to be do or die here from Sharp. He needs to obliterate one of these bases. If he doesn't inflict serious damage, he could be in a lot of trouble. Valkyrie pushing those Mutalisks back. 1 micro hit, 2 micro hits. It still survives. There's still a lot of health. And those siege tanks need to be protected. Ooh, big hit. 1 siege tank down. 1 remains. Lurkers starting to group up towards the front. Defiler Mound still working on Consume. And another peck after the initial Lurker damage. The siege tanks are gone, and Sharp just has to watch this natural expansion. That is most certainly GG. The rest of this Medic Marine army getting cleared out. A siege tank moving up from a distance. But Sharp has no army to speak of. GG right there. Queen still proving that he can take matches. And so now, with a win on Nemesis, whether revenge is secured or not. So I feel like Sharp has proven that I'm trying to get this W in position here, and it really doesn't want to be. Come on, W. Keeps doing that jump thing, like Microsoft Word style. Where it's like, do we want your... I'll just do it this way, and we'll slow walk it. There we go. There we go. Ugh. So we're going to go to a Game 7, which will determine whether Sharp secures his revenge over Queen or not, or whether Queen proves that he's not to be trifled with. It is going to be on Allegro. I could see the game being another really fast... I mean, we've seen it 2 games already. The forward racks style of play. Let's go ahead and hop into it. Upper right hand corner, we have Queen starting as the yellow Zerg. Bottom left hand corner, we have Sharp starting as the blue Terran. Allegro has much closer spawn locations, hence its name Allegro. And considering the success of that forward barracks previously for Sharp, I almost am wondering if it's going to be a calculated risk for him this time, especially as that's what gave him the ability to knock Sharp, or at least cause Sharp, or wrong person, cause Queen to wobble a little bit and not get into that macro groove, which we've seen in the previous two matches. I will say it almost feels like Queen was playing a little bit lackadaisically in the first initial matches, and now that he's got his feet under him, it's like, I've got you figured out, Sharp, and I'm just going to run you over. And we are seeing that SCV move out to the forward position a little bit early. Building a supply depot, actually. Do the map reveals so you can see that it's part of the forward blockade. So no initial. I was actually almost expecting a forward racks here. Instead, Sharp wanting to group up. This is kind of a hard location to construct, though, because you do need to go supply depot barracks, supply depot. The forward contain to deny. Get rid of that. Drone wandering out to again get that rapid scout. Checking bottom right first. That played so well initially. I think Queen's going to love that he's got Sharp in cross position. But on top of that, Sharp, I believe, was hoping to get a information blockade, and that is not going to happen. Drone scout being sent extremely rapidly, able to just make its way all the way into the main. SCV scout in the meantime making its way top left, and might even be able to force another SCV off the line. Yeah, absolutely forcing another SCV off the line. Is that going to be a kill? 10 health left, and the drone in hot pursuit. Now the question is does he want to stay? Looks like he's just going to wait, try to take out another SCV, and with this exchange, that's also hurting Sharp's early economy. First Marine being forced by this scary drone, despite what I think was a early hatch opener. Yeah, early hatch opener. So Queen, with that early drone, making it worth it, has picked out that weak SCV and might even get the kill. Got the kill! Which negates a lot of that play. It looks like there is... so actually, I missed that. There's that space to the north where the drones can get through. Yeah, it's hard to get a good front door, I think, for Terran on this map. Command center on the graveyard of I'm not sure what, but that can't be a good sign. I think Zerg creep feels... I feel like Zerg feels a little bit better about building on the bones of their enemies. Or long forgotten whatever. Finally, Sharp able to make it into the main. The layer has already started. Drone going for additional damage. 3 Marines. That was really fast. I feel like I blinked and the 3 Marines are already out in the field, starting to charge forward. Want to try to equalize things after all that early game harassment. And this might catch Queen off guard. And especially if... are they going to go for the Overlord? Let's see if this Overlord's able to get into a defensive location. That Overlord gets taken out. Losing one of your first Overlords like this can be devastating. So no, also not able to provide vision along that edge. So 3 Marines waiting. Few Zerglings being built. Actually, a lot of Zerglings being built. I think this is going to be a bust. So I think Queen wants to just end it with a Mutalisk Zergling crushing maneuver. And unfortunately with these Marines, once they get discovered, that is going to be even less to help defend. And this is a kind of a challenging spot with that front as is. The Zerglings are regrouping. Smell blood in the water. I don't know that speed is yet upgraded. It looks like it's just about to finish. One Zergling losing its life. Pressing out. The Marines, one down. And it looks like they all lose their lives. And this is before Mutalisks. SCV's pulling off the line. But Zergling's sneaking through the gap, and that's going to make it even more challenging. Yeah, Sharp just GGing right there. And with that, kind of a disappointing end to a fun series, especially the initial games. But with that, Queen, copy the wrong thing, takes the win and proves that he was the better player and deserved to advance out of that bracket. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to check out all of the action in ASL Season 15. It's been an absolute fantastic one this far. Like and subscribe to StarCastTV. Thank you for getting me these replays. Hope you guys enjoyed it overall. Thanks for listening.